Afaf Nasher joins us right now, the Executive Director at CAIR, Council on American Islamic Relations in New York. Thank you for coming on. By the way, I just want to point out right at the beginning, it's right here, we'll bring in the map up in the telestrator. This is not just Colombia where we have these issues, right? So this is all over the country now. Especially in Boston, there was a bunch at MIT. We have it. This was a big one earlier. Yale. There was a number of arrests. I think it was 45 plus arrests. The new schools in New York, NYU, of course. You look out at a place like the University of Michigan right here, even out west at the University of Washington. So this has been spreading, but Afaf, the Columbia protests have been getting a lot of attention. What would you say about what we're seeing here, and to Rich's point there at the end, where this is all going?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And in terms of what we're seeing and what we're hearing, essentially you have a group of students and teachers and administrators who are trying to use what they believe is the very basis of our American democracy, and that is free speech, in order to change the political rhetoric and in order to advocate for a ceasefire to this seemingly endless massacre of tens of thousands of people. But instead of being able to do so, unfortunately, especially in a campus and in a university in which you would think are beacons of the place to go to be able to speak and debate and really test and challenge ideas and political narratives, are instead being silenced. That is what we're seeing and what we're hearing every single day.
The question is whether there's a reason for that, right? I want to put up what Robert Kraft had to say. He's of course, the owner of the New England Patriots, but also a Columbia alum. He says, the school I love so much, the one that welcomed me and provided me with so much opportunity, no longer an institution I recognize. And new comments are in this afternoon as well on this subject from President Biden that we have. That's a short clip. I want to play that for you. Here's what the president said a short time ago.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
All right, what would you say about those that, quote unquote, don't understand? And would you, as the president just did, condemn the anti-Semitic portion of these protests?
So in order for there to be any understanding, there needs to be both people need to be able to speak on both aisles of the table, correct? But when you are silencing, and this is exactly what campuses have done, when you are silencing only one side of the argument, when you are saying that folks like JVP, Jewish Voices for Peace, Students for Palestine, and others are unable to hold events, unable to peacefully assemble and to speak, unable to have events of their own, from valedictorians to protests on campus, being silenced, being terminated from their jobs, and being suspended from school, then there is no understanding. So at the very minimum, these college campuses have to allow for everyone to freely and equally be able to speak and to advocate for what they believe is correct. And again, you essentially have one side that's saying we need a ceasefire and end to violence. And we would hope that all sides want to see an end to violence. But for that understanding to take place, what is essential is that the advocacy needs to be able to take place to begin with, and the silencing efforts need to stop.
Don't you want to have fairness for all students, and wouldn't that include Jewish students? This exchange took place with a Jewish student on the Columbia campus in a back and forth with one of the protesters. Watch.
I'm being yelled at that I'm a baby killer, that I'm a terrorist, I'm a settler. All weekend, Jewish students at Columbia have been told to go back to Poland, to Belarus. They've taken property. It's not true. I can show you video.
So, you know, when you have people out, the protesters, I saw the video of it over the weekend. I don't know how large the contingents that's yelling things like that, but there were people saying, go back to Poland, things like that, to these Jewish students who are on campus trying to go to class or wherever they're going. What would you say about that?
I would say that you have tens of thousands of protesters, students and non-students alike, who are singularly focused on being able to say that every nation and every people need justice and need the ability to provide for their own self-determination. That includes the Palestinians. And for that, they have been silenced, they've been arrested, they've been suspended, and they've been terminated. And when you want to talk about fairness, well, let's not forget that it was Columbia University who had a chemical agent sprayed upon their students, and yet we did not see the levels of accusations that we constantly see against Muslims. So if we are to talk about fairness, then let's talk about fairness. The truth is that you have one side of the political aisle that's consistently penalized and punished while the other side is not. And we see that on the fronts of the electeds, as you said, President Biden, but also on the local level here with our Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul.
Yeah, he spoke out.
Consistently inflaming the rhetoric against Palestinians.
Well, both the mayor. So you're condemning essentially the statements that were made by the mayor and by the governor, which condemned the anti-Semitic portion of these protests.
Nobody condemns anti-Jewish hatred. There is no one that wants to see any kind of hatred proliferate, and that includes the overwhelming 99% of the protesters that are there that are advocating for self-liberation for Palestine. What we are condemning is, first and foremost, the hatred that is consistently and systematically being pursued against advocates for Palestine, and it is systematic. And number two, the silencing tactics that have been overwhelming in order to keep the truth and keep those who are advocating for the end of violence to be able to come out into the streets and into the main realm of speech with our society, within our society.
That's Afaf Nasher from CAIR. Thank you for coming on today with your